What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Guitar Hour. This is 176, back on the numbers. All right. As usual, I am joined by Mr. David BB.
Hey, guys.
Oh, nice. And Mr. Jake Wilson.
Hello.
Jake is back. Lots to talk about. We'll get to that in a minute. Tom is away.
Secret mission?
Yeah, secret mission. So he's AWOL, I guess, this week. So it's just
He's just absent
the three
with
of us.
leave.
Yeah, it's just owl.
Yeah.
Owl. So how we doing, chaps?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I think since the last episode, which Jake wasn't on, talking about going down to see Jack Garner supporting Plini. I think I talked about that. You saw him at the London show, didn't you, Jake?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I saw him I think it was the next night in Bristol. It was the only one I could make. We'll talk about that more in a bit. But following that gig, the next, I must have had something extremely dodgy in a services or breakfast or whatever, and had food poisoning for the best part of 3 days last week, which was pretty nasty.
Grim. I edited it out in the end because I knew at this point that it hadn't happened. But there was this whole back end of the last podcast where there was all this big chat about, loads of amps and lamb, and it all went down the
That's right, because we were going to do like a bit of an amps shootout, weren't we? Dam's going to come over and Tom's going to bring the amps and stuff and crank them up. And anyway, it took me so long to get back. Because I was driving from service station to service station, like chundering up the M1. And then I was like, really, really unwell for a few days. So, but yeah, over that now, and just getting myself sorted off to NAMM tomorrow or Wednesday.
When's it actually on?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Right, okay.
I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And
it's all changed, doesn't it? Because obviously it used to be January, back end of January.
Yeah, so last year it was in June. This year it's in April. And I think next year, as in 2024, it will be January back to January again. That's the theory, but we shall see. Question marks, I guess, all around there. But then flying up from LA up to Portland to do some solo stuff with Mike over there. And then, back home 10 days or so. So, I'm good. Other than that, just plugging away, working the solo, practicing, teaching, gigging, all that usual good stuff.
Sweet. Yeah. We'll get to Jake in a sec because he's got big things.
Big things.
Not much going on really from last week. Had a nice bit of time off. Spent some time with family. My sister's got a 6-month-old. What is it? It's a Pouchon or something. This like little fluffy thing that's an absolute legend. So hanging out with that. And I did start some work on something today, which will hopefully see the light of day. That's all I'm going to say. See what happens.
Oh, good. I like those projects.
But I basically got a week of time off. So I want to try and potentially turn something around, or at least get everything filmed. Because then...
Turn around.
Yeah, exactly. The editing process is a bit more free. It's getting stuff in the can that's a bit more time sensitive in terms of actually having, full days to get your head in that space, and for continuity as well. So you don't come back like a month later with, a spot on your nose or a different haircut or that you didn't have 15 seconds ago. Nobody cares, you know what I mean? But it's just, you just want to get it, you know what I mean? You just want to get it right. Anyway, Jake.
Yeah, so as well as seeing Jack and Plini et al. In London, on the Saturday, from Sunday to Friday, I've been on a little mini tour around the south of UK doing a tribute to Jeff Beck gig, which has been really, really good fun. So much to talk about, but I'm also absolutely exhausted. I got straight back on Friday night and then had 2 Moulin Rouges on Saturday and then some mad family stuff back down in Dover on Sunday. And today's been the first day of kind of decompression. So To quote Dylan Moran's character in Black Books, my brain's falling away like bits of wet cake still.
When you said I've had 2 Moulin Rouges, it sounded like a type of curry then for a moment.
Or a wine, yeah.
2 Moulin Rouges and a
so
anybody's.
for the international listeners, Moulin Rouge is a West End show at the Piccadilly Theatre. It's very good. I'm informed anyone who's gone to see it has been like, well, that's spectacular, but I've never seen it, so I wouldn't know. The music's more or less a mashup of popular music, just like the film.
Oh, okay. It's the one about the windmill, right?
That's the one. Not about the Chinese female warrior lady.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, very different vibes. I honestly, when you come to these podcasts and you go, yeah, I've got a ton of stuff to say. I have a ton of stuff to say, but I have no idea where to start. So it might help if you guys ask me some questions if you wanted to talk about it. I'm
loads of questions.
When you do like a week of something that it was so intense and very tiring, and like I'm just sort of coming back up for air really.
So how many dates was it that you were on? You were doing all of them, yeah?
Yeah, I did all of them. I was trying to be as helpful as possible. And in many ways, I actually just like getting out of my cage and playing in front of people, doing my own thing. I really enjoyed going out on that little trio tour with Ant and Tom a little while ago. And I was like, I really want to do more of that. So when I was asked about this, I didn't have any shows in the diary at the time I was asked about it. So I was like, well, I'll just take those off. I mean, this tour is not really about, going out and sort of making money. It's kind of going out and playing some great music by, one of the greatest guitar players of all time. And, a player who I've come to appreciate even more, having kind of got a bit closer to his stuff. And to just sort of get out there and kind of do it,
How many was it?
Great fun. There were 6 shows on consecutive days.
All down south.
All down south, yeah, which kind of worked. Yeah, I think rumor has it that there are plans for further shows up north. How far up north we don't know, but I'd like to be hopefully involved in those as well to some degree. But yeah, so I had a wonderful time. We kicked the show off on Sunday in a little seaside town in Kent called Deal, which was great because it's the one, it's kind of the one after the rehearsal and everyone's kind of on it.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I met a load of the other guitarists as well.
Let's talk about that. Who's because there's some great people on it, some podcast friends and Illuminist alumni, and people that great players.
Absolutely, this is the thing though. There are so many. I don't want to forget anyone, and so if you forgive me if I forget to mention you, but in different places, different cities, from right. All of the things, there were different sort of guests. So I was doing a slightly different role from night to night. But I suppose you could say the core of it was Dudley Ross, who organised the event. I've known Dudley for years, and we actually did a few gigs together with the Christophe Godin. When I did that little tour of my own stuff, like before I had an album. So we've known each other for a long time, but it was great to sort of get out and work with him like that. He really studied the Jeff Beck thing and was going all in on it. It was amazing, and so you could see just how much sort of respect he had for the material. And then there was Phil Hilborn did all of the shows, so it was really interesting working with him. Kind of, what you might call the old school, the guitar techniques man.
A to Z of great riffs.
Exactly, so he was had some very, very fun and interesting stories, who else was there? There was Scott McKeon played most of the shows. I love Scott's playing so much. He's one of my favourite players from around here for sure. He's an amazing blues guy, and just so, you know, such great feel and time, just sort of tasty motherfucker. Jack Griffiths, I hadn't really heard of Jack before.
Oh, yeah, he's incredible.
Before we got to hang out, I just sort of met him. He's quite a young guy, quite unassuming, from Maidstone, and just played his ass off every night he had the show, and really does do the Jeff Beck thing so closely. It's unreal.
Jack used to do the Peach Guitars YouTube channel.
He did, yeah. But he can, you know,
amazing player.
Which I spoke to him about, and we were sort of talking about how like video kind of keeps you honest when it's like that, rather than the sort of the social media stuff. But yeah, he can really, really play. It was amazing hearing him, and you know, just doing that to that level every night, really playing live. Yeah, it was great. Other people, I just don't want to have like this kind of big list. It's great to see Sam Bell, absolutely. Sam, I said this to Sam, you know, because he's quite self-deprecating chap, but boy, can he play live. You know, he sort of turned up, and he's one of those people who kind of rises to the occasion. Clearly, closes his eyes and goes for it. It was really, you know, really good. Really good to see him play. Carter Arrington, absolute beast, monster, mofo. You can say a lot of superlative things about Carter. Unfortunately, I think the Brighton show was the one that was kind of fraught with some difficulties just because of the logistics. But yeah.
What was the setup really of it then? So you had a drums and bass. Do you have keys as well?
Yeah, drums and bass, keys. Really good, amazing rhythm section. Done lots of homework. It was absolutely fantastic. But again, I feel now I've got to really complete the roll call of guitarists. We have Bobby Harrison.
Bobby Harrison, yeah.
Who's been on the show.
Yeah.
It was really lovely to meet him. As quick and punny in real life as he is and behind the scenes on social media. But I think if you, Dan, and he ever got together, I think it would like bend light or something. It would be serious. David DeAndrade, who's a really lovely chap. Known him a little while down in London, and again just gets up on stage and just does the business. Christian Mendoza, who's playing all of the shows, tours with Roger Taylor, is just one of those guys who just kind of oozes music, and you know, did such a great job. Did a bit of singing as well, which he was obviously great at as well. Connor Selby, who I'd not heard of before, who I think he's Essex based, but he's a really young, brilliant blues guy. Danny Giles in Brighton, Terry Lewis in Brighton. Both of those guys played their asses off. Again, people I've met for the first time. So many great players playing live. Yeah, I'm sorry if I've forgotten anyone. Everyone I played with was just so nice and really, really good. That's quite a roll call already, and I'm quite tired, so please don't take it personally I've forgotten anyone.
No, that's fine. I mean, I didn't get down to see it, but certainly clips and the videos that have appeared online, things you've seen some fantastic stuff. So it sounds like it was a really great experience.
It really was, and great to spend time with other guitarists because we don't get to do that often. You know, it's we kind of know we all know all of the same drummers and all the same bassists because those are the people we turn up to work with. But it's very rare you get to hang out with other guitarists in those kind of numbers. Yeah,
unless it's some sort of like trade show thing, which everybody happens to be at.
Yeah,
exactly. They usually be the sort of watering holes where everyone meets and stuff like that. But
and then actually doing like a proper gig as well.
Yeah.
It's a different thing, but yeah, I learned a lot in that little tour. I had some really difficult times with the quad cortex.
Oh, that was your live rig, wasn't it? Because
yeah,
looking at the pictures, it was really funny because everyone had like enormous rack rigs and huge pedal board and big amp heads, and then you were rocking the digital life.
Yeah, exactly, and
it sounded amazing, by the way. Sounded
oh, thank you. Yeah, no, this is the weirdest bit, right? When I said I had it it was more to do with the situation rather than the actual piece of equipment. And in those environments, you kind of win some and you lose some, depending on what happens with the sound. And that's just the chaos of live events. And like you said, Beebs, unless your name's on the door, you kind of have to sort of get it set up and then, kind of just hope for the best on the night. Does it work? Yes.
You basically, it's line check and then you have to agree. Yeah, everything's great.
Yeah.
So I get what you're given.
Sometimes I had this like weird, like I think there was like someone in the Brighton gig, there was like a hearing loop or something, which I had to like mitigate. And I wasn't sure how to deal with it. I did a load of research and it might not have been that, but I was playing like very, very low volume with a kind of medium gain sound and getting feedback. And it was a kind of mystery because that hadn't happened in the 2 previous occasions. But I was very, very close to the speakers because it was like really tight on stage and I was kind of pushed over to the edge.
Was that on all pickups or just the single coils?
I think it was on all of them, but I can't be sure.
Because there's a thing that happens when I'm going through the FM3 into FRFRs or PAs and things. If you're too close to the speakers on single coils, right. Even with potted pickups, you can get that kind of squeal that's not a good.
There we go. Yeah, because it wasn't like traditional feedback. It's
almost microphonic sound.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, it's not that sort of guitar, and it didn't happen the last 2 days.
Yeah, but
or at rehearsal,
that can happen. If I have to sit on my amp or sit on the FRFR and the Laney, if I go to any high gain kind of sound on the single coil pickups, it doesn't matter whether I'm using the Fibonacci's or even the Sirs or the K lines. They will just goes to that almost microphonic kind of thing.
So that happened. That happened on 2 occasions, and then I did a bit of research, and just it wasn't an issue again. But it's kind of annoying because, well, there were 3 like issues with it, and I'd say that the 3 gigs that were the best gigs for me were the gigs where there were no sort of gear problems.
Yeah, well, shocker,
right? However, when I saw the clips of the ones where there were gear problems, I was like, you know what? It's actually all right. Like,
it's always worse in your head
because you've got the sort
game going on.
Yeah, you've got the mental negs for yourself. You're like, because you play through. Yeah, you play through, probably not thinking too much about what you're playing because you're just like, I hope it doesn't feedback. I hope it doesn't do that, or can they hear that out front because it's quiet here? That kind of thing. Or am I digging in too much because it's quiet here? And there was at times crazy amounts of guitar amps on stage.
There was one picture you posted, and I genuinely thought it was you were all playing to tracks. I thought it was like a backing track show or something because I couldn't see the
drummer.
I couldn't see the drummer. Literally, they were screened out by 4x12s and amp heads.
A wall of amps. No, it was an utterly outrageous undertaking. With some serious gear on stage, it has to be said. Absolutely amazing equipment.
Yeah.
But I watched, like I said, on one of the shows at the Half Moon, let's say we had a less than a tentative sound operative who we did. They did the classic, okay, can you turn down, please? Okay, can you turn down, please? Okay, can you turn down, please? With every single guitarist, every single one, including me, I was pretty quiet. I think they just did it reflexively. Like it was just kind of the thing they do. And some of the guitarists, I could tell were doing the DFA thing. Do fuck all, where they just kind of go and they like look at the guitar and go, how about now? And then they play like slightly gentler.
Move the bullshit fader.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'll turn down. I'll need a bit more in the wedge, yeah, because that's you're turning down. Yeah, no worries. So you send a bit through the wedge, and it's that whole thing where you go, yeah, a bit more, and they're still not there. Anyway, kind of get there, and you're so tired and running, late on the sound check that you're just like, okay, that's fine, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, it comes to the gig. And this is one of the smaller stages, and I can't hear myself against the other guys playing because they're very loud. It's a different. It's one of those environments where because it's a small stage, you are going to get a lot of backline sound.
Did you not have ears?
No in-ears or monitors.
Oh,
it would have been completely impractical in a circumstance like that.
So, sorry to cut in here, but so did you have anything behind you? Was it just the wedge?
No, I had my Atomic CLR speaker.
Okay, right, yeah.
Which was my amp, but there's a small box, so I can sort of put it anywhere really. Like just put it out of the way, so you can't really see it in a lot of the things, which is nice because you kind of got like a sort of stereo feel, but you don't get oodles. Yeah, you don't get oodles of bottom end like everyone else does. So it can sound a little bit thin on stage. Again, not like the equipment, just the phenomena against other guitar amps, like a $5,000 Two Rock or something. That's going to be loud and ballsy. But the amazing thing is when I've looked at the clips, and there's clips of us jamming, it sounds absolutely brilliant out front, like 9 times out of 10. So there is that. So I was really chuffed with how it was as well, because I was getting the train to most of the gigs with that on my back, and the CLR cab went in the van. But yeah, I was kind of enjoying that sort of situation. So, it's one of those where you learn a few things about gigging with that new system, and there are a few frustrating moments. In one of the venues, this is the same as the less than attentive sound operative. Hopefully that makes it an amusing acronym, but I don't know, it doesn't, does it? But yeah, on that one, people must have had like 5. And unfortunately, in that one, there were loads of guests. So a lot of my tunes were kind of together at the beginning of the show, kind of like a house bandy type section. And people coming up to me angrily going, I think you were great, but you need to turn up. Like angrily. So, and I sort of said, there's nothing I can do about it. You turn down because you're asked to turn down, and you expect them to ride your solo when you play, right? That's the whole deal. You want to play, you want to play that game. You want to play the turn down game. Then be reciprocal. Don't just stare at your phone. Anyway, it was one of those. But there was some when the stages were slightly bigger. Let's say the theatre gigs, the QC absolutely shone.
Well, then you're on a level playing field, aren't you, in a way? Because then the amps you're hearing, there's actually a lot, probably converse.
Yeah, you're all going through the PA.
Exactly.
You're all going through the PA, and you don't have the sort of.
And that's what levels the playing field of it then, because then the audience are hearing mostly PA anyway, and it's all then, and that's exactly where the modelling thing's going to absolutely just rock.
It did, and it did. There were a few things I tweaked on it. You really do have to use a lot less gain than you think when you set up at home. So
real nerdy then. What were you using on the Quad Cortex? What models or captures were you using?
Well, I pretty much, because of my experience using modelling before, you really have to, in my opinion, unless you're doing like a full tech thing, you kind of have to stick to the same amp and the same cab. If you want something that sounds kind of consistent. Totally agree on that one. Yeah, it sounds like a lovely idea to swap between like Voxes and Fenders and stuff like that. But actually, you kind of double your workload if you do that. So I just sort of copied over, what you might expect, a Plexi, 100 Plexi, and it's like a vintage 30 cabinet in there. All like stock stuff, no captures or anything. Right. And then I did the songs I was doing, and a kind of what I would call a jams one, which had just kind of 8 sounds that I might look to on a jam. So like a very clean thing, a rhythm thing, an octave thing for riffs or something, and different sort of stages of lead. I was mainly using it in scene mode, right? But it was great. It was that thing of when you hit a button with it, you might think, I want a little bit more, and so I've just got one. I've got the same. Like if it's a simple song, I just have one where it's like that sound plus, where I've just got a bit more on it. So it was great. And so it's that thing of when you've got this huge pedal board in front of you and you go, okay, I've got solo. What pedal should I choose? And then you hit like maybe something on the switcher. And there was a couple of times where maybe someone else had like, they did that, and then it was like there might have been a bad contact or something, and but yeah, there wasn't any of that thing where you go, is this the right sound? It's just like, that's on. I trust that sounds great out front. I might not have ideal monitoring, but in those situations, you kind of close your eyes and go for it. And that's what ended up happening.
Speaking of slightly, well, this is actually changing subjects, although it's on the modelling thing. Have either of you two guys a chance to check out that new neural amp modelling plugin?
I haven't yet. I know you've spoken about it in the Slack, but I
don't want to talk about it. But I think
I haven't checked it out. But
okay, right.
To disambiguate, this isn't neural DSP.
No, exactly. So yeah, this is something completely separate. Although
I have tried Tone X, incidentally,
Tone X,
and so this is like a burgeoning field in the marketplace. But then there's this obviously extra disruptor entering the arena, and what that means for the future of this marketplace is kind of interesting.
It really is. So just a teeny bit of background for anyone that's not aware. Capturing has been around since this idea of like capturing a snapshot of either an entire signal chain or an amp or something has been around since, well, the Kemper pioneered it, didn't they? Was that 2010 or 11, Jake? Because you were early doors on that.
Sorry, I'm munching away.
But anyway, so yeah, Capture's been around early 2010s at least with the Kemper, and it kind of like ticked along, doing extremely well, but being the sole player in this space until recently. Really, we then had Neural DSP doing with the Quad Cortex as a hardware device that captures. There's been, I think, a couple of others, but not as big names, and then quite recently, last year, we had the IK Multimedia Tone X, which is of comparable, or people have been saying at least comparable, if not better in some ways at capturing than the Quad Cortex. And then very recently, it's just blown up over the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks, has been this open source GitHub style complete disruptor guy, Stephen Atkinson, just making this AI machine learning capturing thing for free, completely just, it's a real bare bones plugin you load as a VST, and people are just doing this as a sort of like a community based thing where they're just capturing their amps and just uploading them to various different hubs or Facebook groups and things. And it really is a bit of an interesting time because in terms of accuracy, this NAM, it's called NAM, Neural Amp Modeler, this free thing. It's, again, just to reiterate, it's not Neural DSP. It really does seem to be that it's the most accurate of any of them so far. And I've been playing with this on and off over the last couple of weeks, and I've just been completely blown away by it. It's truly stunning. I think when you get chance, Jake, when you get back to earth with, you get a bit of free time, I think you will be. I'd love to get your opinion on it and thoughts on it, because it's just stunning. I mean, it really is like, and not just good for free, but just incredible period. Now, obviously, there's variables in terms of the quality of the capture and etc. whatever. But the overall, the people that are doing this, they're taking the time to spend the CPU cycles or to do it, online with there's two different ways you can do it. You can either do it yourself with your own hardware and GPUs and things, or you can have it done like in the cloud, the training done in the artificial learning stuff done in the cloud. But yeah, I think generally the people that are spending the time to do that are getting amazing results, and you can just download these. People are sharing them for free and load them into your DAW and get. I mean, it really is astonishing now, the level of tone that you can get, DI'd recorded, tone, like just for $0 is truly, truly astonishing. And as a marketplace, I mean, it really is interesting to know where this is going to go, because it's on MIT license, I think. So in terms of it can be incorporated into other commercial products. I think people could fork it and do their own versions of this thing, and you could skin it, I suppose, or things. And I suppose there's going to be some sort of cowboys coming along as well, and doing some nefarious things.
Yeah,
but it truly is full-on disruption. It's like, I mean, if I was Neural DSP or IK Multimedia, I'd be really kind of watching this very, very closely, because the quality and the actual end result of the tones is at least comparable, if not in most cases exceeding the quality of what their hardware units and their software are doing.
Is this like the Napster or the LimeWire of tone? Like when Napster came along and it absolutely, blew a big hole in the sort of music industry. Nobody's paying for anything anymore.
It does raise some interesting questions as well, about the sort of nature of the IP of things.
The IP of tone.
Yeah, it's a wild west, really.
It seems to go hand in hand with the general kind of forward march of AI and the kind of the potential possibilities of open source and things like that. I mean, there is a little bit of a barrier in a sense that you might have to be a bit of a nerd to find it, because there's no advertising budget to kind of go and find you like you have with the Neural DSP thing, and maybe that's their kind of last hope.
And also on that note as well, if you want to get into this, it is kind of, you've got to go spelunking on GitHub, and you got to kind of, it's not too bad. It's not like, you haven't got to be
spelunking on GitHub, the David Beebe story, the unofficial biography.
Yeah, so it's a little bit, you've got to kind of do a little bit, of parsing of the information to know what you're downloading and what you're running and stuff, and also as an end user, just to try out the captures, that's far easier than if you want to get into actually doing the profiling yourself and training yourself and stuff. And
I mean, that's one of those things where you've got like a kind of low level programming that's just going to have sort of some sort of high level WYSIWYG GUI built on it by some nerd, in the very near future.
So you haven't tried it either, Dan?
No. It sounds interesting though.
Is it definitely give it a go?
The way you're describing it, is it that say there's some Tom Cruise type millionaire that's got, the ultimate rig tucked away somewhere, that if you wanted to buy that in real life, it would cost like $500,000 or something.
Yeah.
You can basically just download the essence of that.
Well, essentially, that's what you can do already with some, like IK Multimedia and the Tonex stuff. They had a big splash for their promo of, they've got Bonamassa's actual Dumble. They bought it off him, I think, and captured that. So you can, on the Tonex platform, you can actually get Bonamassa's Dumble captures.
And I have tried the Tonex. Just a few things here. Like, first of all, I'm a Neural DSP artist. Love their stuff. Love the GUIs. Love the functionality. Love... I open up my Petrucci plugin for my practice sessions. It's got a tuner and a metronome on it, and it's kind of all there for if I'm playing jazz, rock, or whatever, right? So it's more than just a sort of a sound file. It's a suite of things that are very usable and very quick for me to use. I know what it sounds like, so I'm sort of just about to jump into the deep end with album 2 or EP 2. Haven't quite decided yet. But
that's
all
modeling
these things
as well, isn't it? Like the Petrucci stuff and those neural plugins are modeling.
They're modeling. Yeah, they're modeling. But I'm just saying about sort of the relationship I have with that company. I have a called Cortex. It's stuff that I use, and sometimes the way you use something isn't necessarily to do with. I've spoken before about my preference for the Kemper when I was using the Kemper over something that was modeling, was because when you're modeling, you're like, is that right? Is that right? Is that right? Whereas the Kemper, you're like, yes or no. Do you like that? Do you not like it? I like that. Okay, go. And that was obviously what I used almost solely for my first album. Now, there's more to life for me and other people than kind of wondering what's best. At the moment, I have a quad Cortex because it sits on my desk, does a ton of different jobs. And more than that, it fits in my guitar case if I need to do a gig. there are so many things going around as to why someone would use something over another thing. It does everything I need it to do, really, at this stage, and probably loads more with a small footprint. I think it's very impressive for those things. But kind of getting back to the plugin stuff, because I used Tone X in a little session I did around JTC, and I was very, very impressed with what I heard from it. And what I liked about it was that I think with a few kind of plugins that you think you'll go deep in, like say if you're always doing a kind of 80s rock thing, sort of late 80s Toto-esque thing, you might find yourself gravitating towards a Soldano Cali sound or whatever. So you might get like a few of those from whether it be STL or what are the other ones? There's a ton of them, right? There's like 3 big boys, but I can't remember. So you might get those, and then you might get something like the Tone X, which is a bit of a weird GUI, like from the software.
God, it's terrible.
Like, why would you have? And again, I'm saying these things. I think it sounds really good.
Some of them sound incredible. Yeah.
But why would you have like if you want to run a clone? Tell me if I got this wrong. And sorry, IK Multimedia. It's great. It's clearly great stuff, and there might be a reason you've done this. So sorry if I'm talking out my anus here, but if you want to run a clone into an amp, you have to load 2 of the plugins. Yes,
I think that's still the case. Yeah.
So that's kind of a little bit irritating. But if that's the only way to do it to the level of integrity they want it, then that's it. Right?
Unless you load it into Amplitude, because you can use their Amplitude, which is their full modeling,
I see,
not capturing, but modeling and effects suite. Then you can like load the captures into that and then run a pedal into an amp.
So Amplitude is a bit like the Quad Cortex in that you can run modelers and captures in it. And the captures are the...
I guess you could think of it that way, yeah.
So I haven't done that. I don't have Amplitude. But messing around with the Tone X, very, very cool, very impressive. And I think what would be great is to have that alongside a kind of a suite of plugins, amp suites, if you like, or artist suites, like the Petrucci archetype, for example. And then when you want something like production-y in between that you just can't get, then you can just nip on that. But from what you're saying, there's this whole other community of things. I think that would be like, it's kind of a no-brainer to have it, really.
It's bonkers. I mean, it really is astonishing. I've got captures of Plexis, Dirty Shirley's, all kinds of Marshalls, Fenders and things. They sound and feel, absolutely stunning. Now, the actual GUI for it is really, really basic. There's no effects. There's not even a reverb. There is a gate and there's a basic EQ that is doing all post stuff. It's not, because it's not modeling. It's not component modeling, so it's not interactive. It does respond to your, the dynamic of your playing and the volume knob, like all capturing kind of will do to some certain degree. But yeah, the way how I run it is I'll stick that neural amp modeler plugin, capture in an insert on an audio channel, and then put delay and reverb plugin after it.
And when people model those things, when people capture those and then model them, how does that work? Do you know?
What do you mean capture then model?
Well, because it sounds like, unlike a Tone X or a Quad Cortex or a Kemper, you alluded to like some sort of more machine learning kind of thing going on.
That's the machine learning bit is just the it's just the buzzword for how it's interpreting or predicting what the response would be given the input.
Right. So whereas a Kemper kind of guesses at that, and I would assume the other things do too.
Yeah.
Is this learning a bit more about that thing?
Well, it's guessing the same, but based on 2023 ultra-powered, the technology that we've got in 2023 doing it, as opposed to, and I think it's to do with the cycles or something of how many times, I can't remember the numbers of this, but should have got someone on to talk about it, to be honest, a bit more knowledge, but it's like multiples of the times more amount of training cycles it does on the sort of test signal. So, because compared to, I think like we had the Kemper at a certain level, the Cortex is significantly better, Tonex was better than that, and then this free one is like outstrips them all by a long shot as to the amount of time it's training and how high quality and how good it is.
I can definitely foresee that a future where we're all sort of just going to gigs with our iPads or something.
Maybe, but
jack it into the side of your head.
Well, like some of these iPad Pros now probably have more computational power than most of the studios in the 90s or maybe even the noughties.
For sure, yeah.
The things you can do on them. So why not? And there are obviously Shark processors that specialize to do certain tasks, but at some point, I think there's going to be sort of a real turnaround. But again, you're at the mercy of the acoustic world, and sometimes the cab situation hasn't caught up. I mean, I'd have loved to have used just another aside. I'd have loved to have used like a kind of FR more guitar specialist stereo setup. Right, do you use the Laney stuff, Pete?
Yeah, I've got 2 of the Laney LFRs. Yeah, so amazing.
I would have loved to have done that, but if you look at the stages, you got to take one for the team sometimes.
Yeah, it would be really cool for you 3, actually, Tom included, as homework to kind of try out this plugin and kind of report back on a future episode. I think it would be. It would be a really.
Do you know what I might do? I might just like it so much that I end up doing a capture on the Quad Cortex of the
people that are already doing that.
The NAM.
In some kind of weird way, people are doing captures with NAM of other things. Yeah, it's
kind of inevitability, isn't it? There is a sound on the Kemper that I really, really like that I haven't quite managed to get. It's basically the album tone that I used. I could set my Kemper up and capture that, I suppose, but yeah.
One of the downsides I've found through dabbling with this sort of capturing process and profiling process thing is you alluded to it, Jake, and it being a feature, and I almost think it's potentially could be a bug in that there being an endless scrolling of options paralysis of all the different captures, whereas with point-to-point, so component point-to-point modeling, you tweak things as you would. And yes, you're right that is this correct? Is it not? That's a downside. But at the same time, when you've got like on the Axe Effects where there's like 2,000 IRs that you're scrolling through, you're scrolling through IRs and things. It could end up in the similar kind of scenario as that, where it's just an endless sea of captures that you're scrolling through each snapshot to find the one.
Exactly. And at a point where you can't really make that decision, which is kind of the annoying bit for me, like when I get the options paralysis about modeling. But because I've kind of gone through that, I know that at the end of the day, it matters less than we believe it matters. So I've kind of developed a mental discipline around that, and that's not as much of an issue as it might be. But what I do like, which is kind of, it might sound hypocritical of me, is to record now using the plugins, because the kind of decision-making you use after the fact isn't the same as option paralysis. Like, right, once you've recorded like a demo, and then you go in and go, yeah, how much gain would be appropriate for the context, right? You kind of got a bird's eye view of the thing. Yeah, you could go crazy with cabs and stuff, but you really go, do I notice that in the mix? Marginally,
Yeah,
cabs make a huge difference, of course. They're the biggest component to your sound in many ways. But the idea I'm getting across here is that options paralysis at the beginning are less important than not options paralysis, but the amount of options that you have at the beginning are maybe less important than the ones you have at the end. And at some point, you've got to bake it in anyway. There's
also something to be said about the sort of simplicity and usability, and because I know one of the massive selling points about the Helix, the Line 6 Helix, has been how user-friendly it was. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that Neural DSP took a massive dose of inspiration from the UI UX for how they developed the quad cortex, because I don't think there's an easier thing to use than the Helix sort of like operating system. It's so straightforward. And Dan, you use that, don't you, for all your recording stuff?
Yeah, man. Pretty much everything. Anything that's at home. I've got other things. Obviously, there's a torpedo down there and a couple of amp heads and stuff. But
have you tried the Marshall through it yet? Through the torpedo?
No, I've not. I have in the past, but I'll at some point I will. It's just, again, it's one of those things. It's like, yes, I have that and I have that, but cabling up a whole other thing when I could just tweak about with something that's at my feet.
Yeah.
I know the tone purists will be like, whoa, but
no, not anymore. I think there's a change in the tide there, where I think that's getting less and less. The idea of the purity test of maybe live, like as evidenced by Jake's Jeff Beck.
Oh, you guys talked about it last week with them, kind of talking about volume and stuff, where I think we all sort of agreed that it's not necessarily a sound or tone thing; it's more of a feel thing.
It's a lot of it's psychological.
Yeah, that's
time.
where the changes are noticeable. I think it's how something feels, because that will. And I don't mean feel as in like, totes emotion kind of feel. I mean like in terms of like response, to how things respond. But the live.
That range of, we did talk about it last week. I don't know if you cut this or not, but that to me feels like how long your clean sound sustains, or how long your low to mid gain sustains at higher volumes is so different. Or to me, it feels, as you were saying, Dan, it feels different with a big loud tube amp that sometimes doesn't. I don't know. I've not really been on a massive sort of stage going DI'd to a PA with the Fractal without being through the FRs, but I'm not sure if it would be the same. But to me, it's close, but
it's not the same. It really isn't. And there was a lot of kind of skeptical chatter among my.
Were you the black sheep of?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be fair,
Digital Jake.
A lot of these guys were using absolutely brilliant gear, and they were kind of more in the sort of old school rock blues mold, whereas I'm coming from whatever mold I'm coming from, right? So it was
broken
more like,
mold.
But it was obviously clear. But that's why I was there. I was there to be someone who was a bit different from the other people. Probably the closest person in terms of style was probably Sam Bell. So it's great to have him knocking about on some of the shows as well for potentially that reason.
For NPS.
Maybe tilted the NPS a little bit.
The NPS.
And he can really do that stuff live as well, which is really cool.
Sam's an incredible player, absolutely amazing. But to get him back on the podcast at some point, it's been a long time.
I wanted to just sort of slide back a bit to talk a little bit, because I know I mentioned the Tone X. It's obviously Helix native as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's expensive.
No, it's not. It's if you own if you own the hardware, it's not as expensive. Yeah.
It's great value if they own the hardware, but I think it's just like if it was like 150 quid cheaper, it'd be a no-brainer.
If you own some of the hardware and you time it with a sale that they run, I think I got Helix native for like 49 quid.
Wow, like the whole thing.
Amazing. Yeah, but because I own I've got a HX Stomp. So because you had some hardware, then with a sale, it was super cheap.
Do you use it much?
Native?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier on with this neural amp modeler thing, because it doesn't have any effects. Yeah. What I do is first insert effect on the track. I'll put the neural modeler, neural amp modeler, and then I'll put an instance of native underneath it. Run that through to then have all my time-based effects after that. So I use it quite a bit for that. And I've used it
if you wanted to put like pedals in front of it. Let's say it would be a bit of a pain. I think that's kind of the only like logistical barrier You know that
for the plugin modeling.
Yeah,
thing.
like at the moment, that kind of you're having to have loads and loads of things kind of running on per track.
Yes, and
Is it
even the
CPU
same
hungry?
with the Tonex as well, because as
Absolutely.
you said,
Well,
it's
as I
the same.
mentioned,
Unless you're doing,
that's cumbersome.
yeah.
Even I've been getting really into the because I've got a UAD Apollo twin quad. Had to put the quad in there. I don't want people thinking I'm a cheapskate or something. When you do it's got this thing Unison where you just kind of go straight through just using the processor that's built into the Apollo. There's these Friedman amps that they have, and obviously Friedman being the kind of the boutique Marshall of choice, and also available on that. I slam one of those on. I've been really getting into those sounds, but even that's got just a delay on it, and you find yourself all of a sudden maybe getting wanting a little bit more, and that's where I think the neural DSP suites that they do, and other people do that as well. STL, ML Sound Labs, is that the one I'm thinking?
Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
All of these products look really impressive, and but I think that suite thing for guitarists, I think that's like a really strong selling point for me. And when the robots come for us with suites, then we're going to be in real trouble, I think.
This is the thing. It's like, generationally, if I was, if I'm 15, 16, really into guitar, really into production, and I've got like a little MacBook or something like that is great, because I can sit there in headphones. I don't have to annoy any parents with like loud amps or like, cranking things up. You can just sit there and get everything in one sort of space. I was smiling before because when you said time-based effects, obviously the podcast is not at this level, but if we were ever to do some sort of collab with a pedal builder, we could have a delay pedal called Time Horse.
That's what we said on the thing.
It would have been so good.
It's basically a clon and a delay in one pedal.
I think Ingve does something similar.
Arpeggios from hell.
Oh, he's done it.
Oh, yeah, because Tom's not here, so one of us had to get it in.
One of them's got to get him in.
That would be like a Rolex on a Ferrari, wouldn't it?
Well, Ingve would just plug straight into the sound card, wouldn't he?
Yeah, plug it. You're going raw.
Yeah, definitely. Just turn the game way up.
There'll be some listener that's, like a man in a shed out there that'll end up knocking one up.
Build us a time horse.
Yeah, build us a time horse. I pictured the graphic being like a DeLorean with just like a horse behind the wheel with the goggles like Doc Brown.
That's it. Yeah, I'm quite pleased.
If there was a the Guitar Hour pedal, it would surely be some sort of amp in a box drive.
Go on.
No, it's not. No thought. It's just like that's something we'd all use, right? So it was something to capture the essence.
It's not. That's useful. It's not a stupid gimmick, which would be like we should.
Yeah. It's like the Steel Panther pedal.
Yeah.
Around for a bit,
It just got me thinking. It'd be fun to do. Like, what would that be? What would the Guitar Hour pedal be?
Well, actually,
answers on a
Guitar
postcard,
Hour
please.
Time. So this is all like linked, isn't it? So it's got to be a delay pedal.
Well, delay is fucking apt at this point.
Yeah.
On the subject of pedals and stuff, I was saying this to Beebs before, I did see that Josh from JHS has done sort of a live stream kind of addressing on the Monkey Madness.
Did you watch it, Dan?
I watched like half of it. It wasn't this, but it did kind of have the air of like one of those YouTube apology videos. Like,
just recap the whole Bad Monkey thing in 20 seconds.
So the JHS guys did a video just like basically shooting out OG clone and then they had this Digitech Bad Monkey, and he said he dialed it in, and it kept switching between the two. Switching between how much is like an OG Klon now?
$5 grand?
Yeah, $5 or $6 grand versus this pedal that up until, obviously I think it's died down, but up until a couple of weeks ago was probably like 15 quid in like a cash converters or something. Little green Digitech sort of tube screamer vibes.
Yeah.
And it just kept switching back and forth, and on the video it basically sounded the same. So of course,
and then
guitar players being who they are, started going, whoa, right, okay. Started sort of shilling these things out on gear pages and stuff and Reverb, trying to get $400, $500, $600 a piece for these things. And what he said in the video actually is he said
the follow-up video.
Yeah, the follow-up. Yeah.
So this is the one you watched today.
He said, yeah. I think it came out like 3 days ago.
Oh.
He said, yes, this looks ridiculous. And what he was doing is he was scrolling through YouTube, and he just Googled like Bad Monkey, and he's just scrolling, and there's video after video after video of just on this pedal, and he's like, this is the definition of viral. This is stupid. But what he did say actually is that if you go on Reverb and you search Bad Monkey, and then you can check the search filters, I think, for sold, so you can see what's actually been sold. And he said if you have a look for what's actually been sold, nobody's actually buying one for like $500 or $600. Maybe there's a couple that have gone for like $100, $200, but it's very different people putting these things out there, and the appearance of something being, $600, but are people actually paying that? Because these, things are only worth what people are going to pay, and if people are idiots and they're going to pay that, then. But he was saying that he just said it was just he does little pedal shootouts all the time. It was just a silly video. He was basically trying to make the point that 95% of overdrives are kind of the same. It's what is attached to that. So he said, he looked at it and said, oh, it's like it's sort of an overdrive pedal that's got a bass and treble on it. I can dial it in to sound like that. Was his point. I think what he was trying to put over the new video, the response video, he said all I was trying to do is put across this point that a lot of these things are the same. You don't need a $5,000 pedal to sound like that. You don't need what John Mayer has. You don't need, what Bonamassa's got. Just find something that you like and have fun is what he was trying to get across. But obviously the point got very missed, as is often the way with the internet.
I don't buy that he didn't know what he was doing, though. Everything about JHS is very... it's aesthetically beautiful, production level, everything about the whole enterprise is amazing. Like to a level that, he makes great products. I think he seems a very, very clever guy. So I would struggle to believe that he didn't know that what was going to happen from that. Because editing that video back, flipping back and forth. And then I don't know. It's painfully hip to watch their marketing videos. Like, it just couldn't be any more like. It's just like so. It's like literally painfully hip to watch their sort of Instagram and those YouTube videos. And they're amazing.
Kinda, as far as the pedal stuff goes, he's kind of cornered the market on that social media thing. Where
it's just
when it comes to the pedals,
ridiculous. Like the level to which he's so like the coolest of the cool kids. It's remarkable. And I can't imagine anyone with that level of aesthetic and kind of vibe that wouldn't then just like launch this thing off, into the stratosphere of like, and it's a great point. I think that we are idiots, myself included.
But no, none of us bought or sold one, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just saying,
I was looking at what they were just out of curiosity for the phenomenon, but I was never going to actually buy one of any. Like, it's interesting.
Well, here's a little 360 for you. What did you think of Jack Plini et al.'s tone at the Bristol gig?
Oh yeah. So, well, I was.
Because they were all using quad cortex, right? Every single person.
No, I actually asked Jack that, because Jack, after his set came out, stood with us and sort of typed it on my phone, like, is everyone on NDSP? Like that. And apparently Jakob is, or Jack, is it Jakob?
Oh, yeah. Jacob.
He's
Jakob.
on Helix.
Oh,
But everybody else apparently on stage was with no DSP. It, sound-wise, I think you had an amazing venue and it sounded great, and it was. Jack was saying it was an incredible gig. The Bristol one was a little rougher. It was quite a bit rougher.
Yeah, the sound when I've seen Plini various times has been obviously difficult because it's so high gain. So it's kind of like taming a wild beast.
Yeah.
However, during the solo section, it's just like the crispiest, juiciest. Lead tone you can think of. When you got loads of space, it was just like, wow, that sounds amazing. And the silent stage probably gives them so much more control over the precision of the balance. Obviously very different to what we were doing, but it's just kind of going to show that not going to show, obviously this is one genre, but I think there's high transferability. But all of this craze about individual pedals, does that really happen at a pro level?
It's an interesting point, actually.
Yeah, sorry. It
certainly disseminates from a pro level.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a top-down thing.
It's top-down. Well, yeah. I mean, why did the Marshall Bluesbreaker command so much money all of a sudden? It's because John Mayer was using it on the Gravity albums. So I think there's a very much a top-down thing. I'm laughing because I actually just remembered I spent most of Plini's set in this little hallway with John Cordy and Alex Hutchins.
Oh, really?
And I heard it, but it was coming through a very filtered sort of. Who's Alex Hutchins? We have to have him on the show. He was an absolute lad. He was amazing.
Brilliant!
He was such a funny guy. Had a great night. So we'll get Alex on at some point. But so my hearing of the tone of the Plini set came at a bit of a funny angle. So I couldn't really say. I mean, Jack sounded amazing. I think obviously Jack's
played his ass off as well. I literally have no idea how he remembers all that stuff.
Yeah,
because it's a little bit like kind of the level of detail and number of notes are so dense, and they're not songs, so it's not like a kind of Dream Theater thing where there's I don't think he ever gets like a break.
Yeah, I mean, Jack is he's a freak of nature in that sense, because he executes predetermined stuff incredibly well, and then he improvises to such a high level. And I think most of that set is like written stuff. Conversations with him.
He doesn't get a chance to improvise in the set, I don't think.
Yeah, so he said I think there's one tune where him and Ricardo on bass are improvising, but so he, Jack is like, he's memorizing all that stuff, and he'd totally be forgiven for, if he didn't have the greatest memory in the world, old Jack. But he does. I mean, he's amazing. Like how he recalls all that stuff, and to such the accuracy and the detail and the command of the instrument. He's just an absolute freak of the best nature, and lovely guy as well. Absolutely lovely guy. It's great to catch up with him.
We had a lovely time after the London gig. I hope that lovely time after the London gig didn't impact on the Bristol gig too much.
Well, he did say that you Jake, Doctor was in session.
The Doctor was in session.
The Doctor was in session.
Absolutely, it was a wonderful time.
Yeah, and likewise Bristol was, was amazing. And there was a great. Who else was there? Phil Dyer was there. Jason Wilding was there.
What?
It was it was a real nice kind of like super, bancy kind of vibes, and say John Cordy, Alex Hutchins.
Well, John Cordy's always going to be bancy vibes.
Well, it's bants or like, it's like who's buried under the patio, Cordy. You know,
Yeah.
He's
What,
amazing.
What Two Notes product did you say you had, Dan?
Torpedo.
All right, I don't know. I don't know why I ask. God, that's a deep cut there. That's a deep, deep chordy cuts.
Yeah. If you've made it this far, comment deep chordy cuts.
Deep chordy cuts.
I think Jack is playing down this Manchester way at some point. Maybe the end of April. I'm not sure. Something's going on.
There's a festival, isn't there, that he's doing?
Yeah.
Plini? Is it? Plini
Oh yeah, I'm
again?
going to see that. It's Radar Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm heading up for that.
To Manchester?
Yeah.
What?
I think it's July. I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think I'm on holiday, so that's why I couldn't do that one.
My buddy, I Built the Sky is playing.
Oh yeah,
and I look forward to seeing Roe. I did the strings for his album a little while back, and having only met him at NAMM, I thought it'd be cool to go and see them live. And a festival of all prog music. Also, Sleep Token are playing, and I heard some Sleep Token, and I was mightily impressed by the production. So I thought, well, I'll make a weekend of it. I'm getting to that point nowadays where I need to start booking these things in, otherwise I don't do anything.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I know that.
So we should have some sort of cordial event, Dan.
Yeah, man.
When I come up, I'm a bit fresh on the last episode because I wasn't there. I was doing the show. I listened to it earlier today while out on my duties, and so I'm really fresh on what you guys were talking about. So it must be a bit weird, but can you imagine if you get to NAMM and there's this huge Marshall booth with frikadellen and is that German? I think that's German, but you know what I'm getting at, this kind of complete, rub it in your face, South Parkian,
all the new heads of
Swedishness. yeah, exactly. Ola Strandberg's there, kind of just hanging out.
Part of it'd be really interesting because 2022 was very much you couldn't really tell what was going on because it was post-pandy. And it was
post-pandy.
Yeah,
I like that.
So it was. Is this coming back or is it going away? And it was really hard to. It was obviously different. It was super, super different. In some ways, it was really, really good. I liked it, but you can't sustain that forever.
They confirmed that it's January again, haven't they?
Yeah. It's definitely going to happen, but I just mean the trajectory of the relevance to it all. I guess is overall in terms of it being a thing that's kind of going to be what it was, or if it's going to sort of on the decline. But so it's really interesting to see if this year is going to be a bigger, more like normal, or if it's the other way, the same or going down. So yeah,
I hope it does, because I fear change, to quote Wayne's World. But yeah, the moment it moves back to January, I think that's my sort of winter sun sorted.
Yeah.
Although I did go to Tel Aviv, and sorry, Californians, I did find it much nicer.
Well, it is a good thing to break up the winter, but also there's so many other things that would be sad to lose from the periphery of it all. So many things happen around it. Obviously, there's the social media, YouTube gear kind of thing, but there's so much other stuff than that. Yeah. There's
lots
all these
of cherished memories of other daft stuff happening.
Well, so the events, so many gigs, so many sort of things happening, educational stuff that goes on all kind of around the sort of vicinity. Yeah. That
it's the randomness of it as well. Just the kind of
the characters.
Everyone's just exactly, and everyone's just kind of like, okay. Thank you for coming to the NAMM show. Please make your way outside. From that moment on, anything can happen. It is anything. And
my life has been changed by my first trip, so I'm certainly grateful to the experience of doing that whole thing. And many great NAMM shows, and then things that have come off of the back of that. So I think it's fond memories either way. But yeah, it's 3 days again. So last year it was 3 days, and obviously NAMM is usually a 4-day event. So it's 3 days last year, 3 days this year, and then 2024 January, it's supposedly going back to normal time of year with the full 4 days. So,
Well,
It's one of
shit
those-
or bust. Perhaps.
It's one of those days like don't they have like a Publix day where it's like not industry? There's always that
With all
one
the
day.
people dressed as aliens of various
It's just
sexual
that's
natures.
looking like the
people
London
say,
Marathon.
people say this is a public day. I don't know. I've heard conflicting things. Like it always feels like the Saturday,
Yeah,
the
man.
mid-NAMM meltdown Saturday, is where it all gets a bit too much.
I usually have a
Yeah,
day off on the Saturday and go.
That's what Andy Wood does on the Sunday. He just goes to Disney World, Disneyland.
It's not a bad idea, you know, because that Saturday is just so annoying. It's just tons and tons of people. You can't get
Well,
anywhere very easily, and also just people dressed up as weird things. And like, what? It sort of strains the relevance of whatever's going on.
This what was so great about last year was that it was all the things you kind of like about NAMM with the less of the things you didn't. So it was so, even though there was less of the big players there, it was civilized. It was really cool. It was a good thing.
Did you find any new kind of eating places? Like, you know, where did we go last time? The Anaheim.
The packing house.
What's it called? That
Yeah, the packing house or the pack house.
the packing house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a couple. I actually met a few friends, American friends, at some nice places on the beach. On one of the nights, I can't remember what it was, but there was a beautiful harbour on the coast, not too far, just coming out, directly sort of. What's the word? Naughty Elephants West. So yeah, going to the west of Anaheim out and a little bit down. But yeah. I think the packing house is probably one of the better places for eating around there.
Well, I'm planning on 24 January. But, Godspeed. Have a great show. I mean, it's a little way off yet, isn't it? You've got another week or something.
What?
So just going tomorrow, aren't you?
Oh, you're going to? Sorry, I got really confused then. You're going tomorrow.
Well, I don't know.
Rewind.
It's Wednesday. I'm flying Wednesday, but yeah, I might go down tomorrow night to the airport and decided yet. Depends how much I get done tomorrow morning.
Killer.
Cool.
Well,
all right then.
Next one, you'll be maybe hearing. Probably the one after next, but we'll see. But hearing all about the NAMM exploits.
Yeah, I'll dial in from. I might be in Portland by the time we do record it, but so I'll do a debrief of the happenings.
There you go.
We'll do the usual and do the back end. You take the back end, babes.
You take the front, I'll take the back down. Yeah,
You're like a pantomime time horse.
pantomime time horse. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and watching. Now I have to think about that too. So maybe we'll start bringing some formalities back to this if we can keep this going as a streak. But do appreciate each and every one of you, and thanks for sticking with us and being patient whilst between the long, vast spans of time horse between episodes. And we'll see you in the next one. So take care, guys. Happy practicing and rock on.
Peace.
Jesus, motherfucker.
Bye-bye.
Bye.